Happy Monday to you, and welcome on in here to First Pitch, a live edition here on the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel. Never miss when we go live. You hit that little bell right there in the bottom corner. But hey, we're happy to be here with you. We got 13 games on the card tonight. We're definitely going to be talking about Miami against the Yankees, the Rangers taking on the Astros, and the Philly and St. Louis tilt. Those are the games that are guaranteed. The other ones are going to be determined by you. That's right, in the live chat, asking your questions all along the way. We already have some lining up there below, so we'll be getting to those here shortly. But let's bring in the guys. I got Mark Zinno with me. I got Steve Merril with me on a Monday edition when everyone's thinking about baseball. Nobody's thinking about this little game called the National Championship between two 1 seeds. Nobody cares about that. They want to know about the Miami Marlins and the Yankees. You know, this is Mark, like a tale of two teams, two cities, as one of the teams with the best starts to the year versus one of the teams with the worst starts to the year. I'm sure the Fish are happy to see Luzardo on the mound today, and you just think that might be affecting how you're going to be betting this one. How's it going, and how are we looking to bet this one?
Dan, great to be with you. You know, one of the first things I noticed about this line here, given the Yankees' hot start and the Marlins' very slow start, was the pricing on the money line. You know, to see the Yankees as only a minus 150 favorite here kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit, especially when I looked around the rest of the board and you see a team like the Mets who are struggling, and they're playing a good team like the Braves. The Braves are minus 205. You see a team like the Nationals that are struggling, and they're playing the Giants, and the Giants are minus 215. So beg the question, why would a team that's as publicly bet as the Yankees and as publicly followed as the Yankees only be a short favorite, comparatively speaking, against what is the worst team in the league record-wise? So it just got me thinking, and obviously you get Luzardo on the mound, who is the Marlins at this point really only legitimate starter that you want to trust. And look, he's been good in his first two starts. He's just been hurt by the home run ball. He's only given up 6 hits in 2 starts, but 2 of them were home runs, and that accounted for 3 of the 5 earned runs that he's given up. Still has a .97 whip on the year. And the Yankees are a team right now, despite all of the home runs and all of the scoring that they're doing, still the 4th highest strikeout rate against lefties to start the season. So this is also a Yankees team, by the way, that has been scoring runs later in games than early. And, you know, they've been tagging on teams' bullpen, and they've been in close games early. You look at that first start, that sweep against Houston, a lot of their runs were scored in the 6th, 7th inning and later. So with Luzardo on the mound, you know, I cut this game in half because you don't want any part of the Marlins bullpen. But the other part, really, that I'm fading here is Nestor Cortes. Look, I'm a Yankee fan, okay? And I can tell you, Nestor Cortes is not good. I know people think that nasty Nestor, he's just not that nasty. He had a run a couple of years ago of like 6 or 7 starts where he struck out like 8 or 9, 10 guys, and everybody got excited about him. He's just not that good. You know, he was slightly better at home last year, but not a massive difference. His 2 starts this year, he's given up 3 runs in the first inning in each start. So he's been, tagged early. I know the Marlins haven't gotten off to a great offensive start, so there is a little concern there, but Cortes is pretty hittable. And given the price we're getting here with the Marlins in the first 5, plus a half on the run line, usually you're going to pay some negative, in the minus 120, minus 130, minus 140 range certain times. We're getting this nearly at even money. The Yankees coming off another big win over the Blue Jays. I know it's the Marlins, but this price is way too short for me to back the Yankees here. It almost seems like a trap spread to a certain extent. But I like the Marlins here. Luzardo does his job. I think he shuts the Yankees down. We get a run in our back pocket here. Even a tie score here gets us a win. So I'll back Luzardo and the Marlins here at even money, taking the half run.
Yeah, and you got to chop the game in half and get creative if you're going to convince the chat to ride here on the Marlins. But a plus money price, getting a half a run, Marlins over the Yankees in the first 5. That's the early play here in the big game breakdown from my man Mark Zinno. If you want to hear his thoughts on Purdue and UConn, you can check out WagerTalk today on the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel. He was going fisticuffs with my man Teddy and Prez. They were trying to rope-a-dope him. He was coming back with some strong rebuttals for potentially backing the dog in that one. So if you want the breakdown, head on over there. But we got plenty to get into before that. Hey, while you're here, make sure you hit that like button and hit subscribe as well. It's a great way that we can continue bringing you the free content that we do. Steve Merril is with us as well. 2 R's, 1 L. And Steve, both teams that you want to look at coming off some series wins over the weekend. My Philadelphia Phillies, appreciate you getting the memo that we need to talk about them on a daily show basis. They're taking on the Reds here. I'm wondering how you're looking at betting this one, Steve, or the Cardinals, excuse me.
Yeah, I want to welcome all the live viewers because it is a big night, obviously, the national championship. But don't forget the solar eclipse 5 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago to be exact, here in Virginia. It started to clip. The next 2 hours, it's in the process. So I'm taking precautions here while we do the show just to be careful. And I've got my zombie baseball bat also because I don't quite understand how this eclipse things works. But from my understanding, I could be in some danger. So Dan, of course, was preemptive and moved to California a year ago to get away from the eclipse. So that was a good move. Dan Alexander. And you also might be getting away from your Phillies, right? Because they just lost to not my Washington Nationals yesterday on Sunday. And it's interesting, Marcus, don't talk about the Marlins are the worst team in the league, 1-9 straight up. They got their lone win yesterday against St. Louis. We've talked about this a lot. We don't do shows on Sunday, and it's probably a good thing we don't do the MLB show on Sunday because that is the bizarro day, a day ahead of the eclipse. Maybe they were starting to feel it because both the Nationals and Marlins won as road dogs yesterday, or as underdogs, rather, yesterday. And one thing the Nationals did against your Phillies was run on first move. They had 5 stolen bases in that 3-2 when they really had to manufacture runs because they didn't hit the ball well. They only had 8 hits. Phillies have been getting really good pitching. In fact, the last 7 games, your Philadelphia Phillies have allowed 8 hits or less. Problem is the Phillies have not had more than 9 hits in any game this season. And despite going over the first 5, things have come back around now. They've gone under 4 straight. I do like the under in this game, especially it's sitting on that key number of 9. And we got to talk about Spencer Turnbull as well. He missed all of 2022, obviously, with the Tommy John surgery. And then he was kind of snake bit last year with various injuries, I think a neck and a toe injury. So he really has not been full throttle for over 2 years now. So, yes, we got to kind of be careful with him, but we also might find some value with him now if he is fully healthy. And if his opening day start, his first start of the season, rather, back on April 2nd last Tuesday, is any indication, he's pitching pretty well. It was against a decent Cincinnati offense. He went 5 innings, gave up only 3 hits and one run. It was unearned, so no earned runs, 7 strikeouts, no walks. So really like what we saw from Turnbull last week, and I think that's another reason the early sharp money today has come in on Philly. They went from a $1.05, $1.10 underdog to now a -105, -110 road favorite. So I agree with the money move on Philly, and I would lean under 9 as well on that key number.
Breakdown on the side and the total in the Phils and Cards game there. That's Steve Merril, WT.buzz/SM. Guys, we do have best bets that are going to be coming up here on the show, but we got comments rolling on in here, including Desert Storm Sports Betting, who's joining us on the Instagram channel. That's right. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you want to find us. You can find us. And I'm going to ask you, Mark, since you were talking about different first 5 plays and you like splitting games in half, he's talking about this Philadelphia and St. Louis game. He's thinking there might be some runs early in this one. So, hey, we still could get under that 9, even if there's runs early. He's looking at the first 5 over 5.5 at the plus money price. Any thoughts on that? Or is it just, hey, I found some stuff elsewhere on the board?
No, I mean, look, it's Miles Mikolas, right? Like, there's a chance that this guy is bad. He was bad last year. His ERA is 6. His WHIP is 1.65 through 2 starts this year. So it's not like he's a guy that necessarily you're going to you're going to have to struggle to score off of. And look, he played the Dodgers and the Padres. They've been 2 of the highest scoring teams in the league to start the year. But you have to feel pretty confident that runners are going to be on. He gave up 14 hits in 10 1/3 innings in his first 2 starts. Usually runners on leads to runs coming across the plate here. So, and this is a Phillies team that we know, certainly can hit. When that lineup is getting going, as you know, this is a team that can score runs with the best of them. So I don't think it's a terrible play. I think when it comes to the full game, as Steve has pointed out, you go search out the bullpens here and you start to look at a Nationals bullpen that's always shaky at best. And, Phillies fans will tell you, Dan, that Phillies bullpen always kind of, makes you worry a little bit. But when you talk about the first 5 here, if they get to Mikolas, they got a great shot to go over this number.
Yeah, get to him early, and that's the chance of going over, but potentially, staying under as Steve was breaking down that side of the game. Who knows? Hop below in the comments and let us know. Guys, I'm already catching some heat. Steve was the one who wanted to talk Phillies. I mean, I slid him a 5 under the table, but Tyler's saying, of course, we're talking Philly. Got Philly in the video title. Dan's got to get him in. I had nothing to do with it. Or did I? We'll never know. We'll never know.
Let's do it with the Eagles getting into WrestleMania, Dan. That's what I think. That's really what it was.
That's really they find their way to get in there, man. Nobody's having more fun than Jason Kelsey in retirement. We can all agree on that. That's for damn sure. But let's stay in the state of Pennsylvania, because before we even started the show, we had Eric DeLong checking in, and he was asking about this Pittsburgh train. Steve, he was saying, do we just keep riding this Pittsburgh train? They're playing against Detroit. Detroit's actually had a decent enough start to the season, maybe exceeding expectations, at least out of the gate here. It's Pittsburgh and Detroit. Does the train continue on rolling? And Eric DeLong asking, do we just keep on riding it, Steve?
Yeah, I meant to do this last week when we were talking about the Pirates. I wanted to pull up last year's start because if memory serves me correctly, they got off to a decent start last year as well, and then just totally tanked it after a month or two, right? So, yeah, let's be careful here. There's only 10 games in, and we've seen this movie before. But as I've said also in other shows the last couple of weeks, the Orioles were a bottom feeder. Once my Baltimore Orioles, not my Baltimore Orioles, maybe once again my Baltimore Orioles as a childhood growing up in Northern Virginia, because they really took their lumps the last few years, and they're up and coming now. We saw that last season. They look strong again. So maybe the Pirates are starting to turn the corner, because it is the second straight year they've had a good start, but we got to see them maintain it. And let's not forget, they're in a very manageable division. Mark just talked about the Cardinals. I talked about them as well. The Reds, maybe slightly better than a 500 team. Milwaukee should be the team to beat, but they are every year, and they seem to come up short. And the Cubs are also dicey. So Pittsburgh probably has a chance in this division. And the Detroit Tigers, a very manageable opponent here tonight. And look, momentum is a real thing in sports, especially baseball. It's a 162-game season. And if you rode the Pirates early on last year, you made money. And then if you did the trend follow the other way when they started to turn, you made a lot more money when they went cold. So, hey, look, ride them while they're hot. Be ready to jump off that train if it turns like it did last year, and it often does.
Mark, you have any thoughts on this Pittsburgh train early on in the year?
Here's the thing. One, remember, they played the Marlins and the Nationals in their first 6 games.
Right.
So that's part of the reason why their record is what it is. I think they're a little, as where I come from, a little fugazi. I don't know that they are, but more importantly with tonight, guys, look who the Pittsburgh starter is. Now, if you remember last year, part of the reason they got off to a hot start was because Mitch Keller was anchoring their rotation, and he was very good to start the year. What happened in the second half? All the analytics nerds came out, and I remember reading several articles on saying that Keller was a guy to fade. He was terrible in the second half of the season. He was terrible in his first 2 starts. I think this is an overpriced Pittsburgh team that you may be able to take advantage of here. Now, Steve may be right. They may stay hot here. The Tigers aren't exactly a juggernaut by any stretch of the imagination. Their offense isn't great. But, again, if Pittsburgh, was as good as they have shown through the first week, I'm still going to be a little bit skeptical until they start playing really. You saw the series against the Orioles. They lost the opener. I think they had an extra inning win was the other one. So those are always coin flip situations there. So I just think that right now, I don't know what Pittsburgh is. What you do know is they are scoring, right? They are putting the bat on the ball. And I think if you were going to attack this a certain way, if you wanted to, I would more look at Pittsburgh's team total over from that standpoint, or at least an over in the game. I think those may be more interesting ways to play this year, but it's hard for me to back Mitch Keller given his track record as of late.
Steve and Mark, we're going to talk here about the Braves game in just a second, because we have a couple people talking about it in our YouTube chat. Back on the Instagram side of things, Steve, earlier we heard Mark breaking down the thoughts of potentially getting on the fish Miami in the first 5 against the Yankees. Little agita even hearing him break that one down, but when he was breaking it down, it at least made sense. We had Jay Roth on Instagram. J-Roth 1528, he's saying Yankees spread live for the game, because part of why Mark wanted to break it down in half was because he didn't want any part of the bullpen once the Marlins bullpen trots out there. Could that bullpen be enough to push this Yankees team to be covering on the run line? Any thoughts on that one? And also, do you really look to play run lines on a daily basis, or are you more money line totals unless it really makes sense to?
No, I use run lines as much as I use money lines. What I like to do, especially as teams in which I have winning by a couple runs, and get them down below $2 price. But as Mark said, this is really crazy to see the Yankees and only the minus ones, here instead of two minus 250 like you would normally see with this kind of a record disparity. So when it's minus 150 here, I don't think you necessarily need the run line. I think the money line, you're okay still. But my concern here is a couple things. First of all, when I started handicapping baseball over 25 years ago in the 1990s, I developed an underdog system. And I used that actually exclusively for several years, played nothing but dogs. And it's kind of a contrarian underdog indicator. And the Marlins do still qualify in that. I don't use it as much now. It still works, but I've used other filters. But Miami actually fits my initial underdog system from 20-some years ago. And, of course, they did kind of break out offensively with those 10 runs on 13 hits yesterday. And keep in mind, they had 8 hits and 9 hits the 2 games before that. So it does look like the offense is starting to heat up. That's something you look for. The Yankees, meanwhile, 17 runs the last 2 games, but they're still a team that is shaky offensively. They live and die by the big ball from the big man. And I think that allows teams to sometimes sneak in. So this does look like kind of the trap game of the night as Mark led up, with the large short price. So I actually like Miami in this spot as well.
Wow.
And once again, it's a long-term grind, right? You can be less than 50% of the time when you're getting plus 140 and make money this baseball season.
Yeah, and if there was any day that the Marlins would upset the Yankees, wouldn't it be when the eclipse is happening and apparently like our reality is being completely shifted? So hell is freezing over today, guys. So today would be the day when the fish would get it done. Steve's got our back. He's got the zombie bat ready to go.
Yeah, my zombie bat, just in case we go dark, guys. Oh, okay, just in case, we might be in and out here. I might be in and out occasionally. Yeah. I don't know how this eclipse thing works. Oh, there it goes. Look at that. Oh, it's glorious. It was so glorious. You guys missed it. It was fantastic.
I didn't know that Carrot Top was filling in for Steve. The prop comedy is just on another level.
You know I've got some props, Dan Alexander. How dare you? You know exactly what I've got in this office.
This is true.
You've produced enough shows. Steve. That is true.
Catch Steve. Yeah, that's for sure. Catch Steve down on the strip.
Remember to tip your waiters and waitresses.
Doing a show here. Show here right after. Yeah, make sure you tip. And hey, while you're tipping, why don't you make sure you hit that like button and hit subscribe?
There we go. That's a
These
tip.
guys are getting
I like it.
Yeah, exactly. And these guys are getting you actionable info on games that they prepped up but didn't have here on the slate. That's what we do here on the live shows. We're answering your questions all show long. We do have best bets that they did plan for coming your way here in just a few moments. But guys, first, let's talk about this Atlanta Braves team, as we have some folks saying, hey, I got run lines in my pocket. They're really liking them against the Mets today. It opened at minus 225 on the money line, and we've seen some money come for the Mets as it's down to about 2 bills in some spots. We got minus 218. So really, the spread is all over the place as far as the money line goes in this one. Either of you guys, I'll open it up. Bravos, Mets. Any thoughts on this one? Because the chat certainly likes the Braves in this one.
Well, I live here in Atlanta, guys, so I cover this team pretty closely. And Charlie Morton last year, I don't know if you guys knew this, but it was just a strange season for the elder veteran. He had 30 starts. He was 14-12. That's 26, right? So there were only 4 starts when he got a no decision last year. That's because he was either really good or he was really bad. So he's going to go 5 or 6 innings just because he's an innings eater like that. But usually those 5 or 6 innings were either 5 or 6 innings of 1 run, 4-hit baseball, or no runs, 3 hits, or they were 5 or 6 innings of 6 hits and 6 runs. So you got feast or famine with him all last year. And I just think that's the level starter that he is at this point in his career. Sure, he can go out and give you a great start, but guess what? He can also go out and give you a stinker. Well, you got a great start last time against the White Sox, 5 2/3, 3 hits, no runs, and struck out 6. This is a Mets lineup that isn't hitting the ball, so that scares me a little bit. But I would caution you because on betting the Braves, especially at this number, even though they've been hitting the snot out of the baseball as we expected them to, but Charlie Morton is absolutely in line for a start where he gives up 5 or 6 runs. It's there. It's always going to be there with him at this stage of his career. So you're going to get feast or famine. That's the hard part about backing the Braves here. You see where that total is, where it is. Some of that is the Braves, but I don't think the Braves are scoring 8 or 9 runs on their own here.
Yeah.
I would trust that the Mets can do this. As crazy as that is, if you got a 5 in the first 5, I may look there, because if Charlie Morton is going to it's going to happen early. Right? As I just told you, the numbers tell you that if he's on, he's not giving up anything more than 1 or 2 runs through 6 innings, and your first 5 is done. Why sweat out 9 when you really don't have to here? I would look to a first 5 over if you wanted to play the over, but I would be very careful and cautious about backing the Braves laying that 1.5.
Yeah, Mark, first 5 Zinno there, giving you a potential play of breaking that one in half. Steve, you have any? Yeah, no, I love it. I absolutely love it. I want to, dude. We talked about it on the other show. Like, I'm even in on the Yerfies and Nerfies. Like, I want my bets to cash or lose early so I can move on to the next one.
Yep.
Our friend Joe Ranieri on Bet On It, he's always saying, I'm always doing first half wagers because then I just get to pour myself a nice glass of scotch, nice glass of whiskey, kick my feet up, or drown the sorrows in half number two. So I'm all about it, man, especially at 3-hour games. Steve, before we turn the page, talk some best bets here. You have any thoughts on that Mets game?
Yeah, Mark's point about Morton being, hot or cold, really one extreme or the other is an excellent one because he faced the Mets 4 times last year. The first 2 starts, he gave up 8 runs in just 10 innings. The next 2 starts, he gave up no runs in 12 innings. So it's like hit or miss with him. The one thing that has been really good, well, 2 things have been really good for the Braves this year. First, the offense is explosive, the most explosive in baseball. They've had 11 hits or more in 5 of their 8 games. They've put up 12 runs, 9 runs twice, 9 runs or more in 3 of the 7 or 3 of the 8. So, I mean, they're a very explosive team. We did see some sharp money on the over. It opened 9.5. It's up to 10 across the board. But as Mark also said, the first half makes sense because the Braves bullpen has been lights out great so far this season. They have given up only 7 runs in 33.5 innings, only 2 home runs allowed, a 1.9 ERA. So that's where it gets kind of tricky here. Yes, you've got an explosive offense, a hit or miss pitcher, but then you've got a great bullpen. So that's where the first 5 inning probably comes in handy.
You like the content here, guys, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss when we go live here. And if you like what these guys are dropping, we have a hell of a deal going on over at WagerTalk.com. You can get your favorite capper, 30-day all-access, chop $60 off of that, bringing your price down to $8.30 a day. And even if that wasn't enough for you, how about you get 7 days free once you lock that in? No promo code needed. You can get it at your favorite Cappers Play. So you get 37 days of play, $6.45 per day. That's not too bad. You hear the term value getting thrown around a lot. It's a hell of a nice value there, gentlemen. Hey, we do have best bets coming, but the live chat is still lighting it up. So I'm going to make you wait for these gentlemen's best bets a little bit longer. While you're waiting, hit that like button. But let's swing to this Padres game. And I'll start with you, Mark, since the question from Tyler is talking about the first 5. Padres first 5, laying the half a run. He says the Cubs let down after maybe smoking the Dodgers. Darvish, solid option on the mound there for the Padres. Any thoughts on the first 5 in that one?
Well, I mean, you have Darvish on the mound, and that's really what your handicap is if you think this thing is going to stay under or it's going to be the Padres, that he's going to be unhittable. Because in case you haven't noticed, the Cubs have an 890 OPS, only trailing the Angels, this year. Sorry, that was let me update my screen. That was against lefties. But the Cubs have been tearing the cover off the ball. They're 5th in Major League Baseball in OPS right now. They're top 10 top 5 rather in WRC plus. They are hitting the snot out of the baseball and scoring a ton of runs here to start the year. So this is a team right now offensively that, and that's why they are where they are, because they're scoring. They have one of the lowest K rates in baseball right now. They're bottom 5 in K rate. So you're asking Darvish to have his best stuff against one of the best lineups in baseball at this point in time. And that's really the gamble, especially when it comes to being on the road here. I know Darvish has been great to start the year. And the fact that total sits at 7.5, I guess makes you believe to a certain extent that odds makers are leaning on Darvish to have the edge. Otherwise, you'd get your standard 8 or 8.5 here with the total that usually comes out. But I'd be weary with you at this point in time. Darvish, that is, not with you, Dan. But I'd be weary with Darvish on the mound against that Cubs lineup.
I was like, I caught a wild stray at the end there. What did I do? I'm just here queuing up the questions.
Oh, you know what you did.
I'm here so you guys don't have to be in the chat. Yeah, Steve, it's like, I know what you did last summer. I know you have your Jason mask somewhere around there.
You know what you did.
Well. So what? So you can throw that one out there. Hey, guys, talking about valued, undervalued, we also have a poll chat that's over on our YouTube Shorts feed talking about the most disappointing team thus far in Major League Baseball season. They're asking, do you think it's the Diamondbacks, the Rays, the Astros, and the Orioles? So hop on over to the YouTube Shorts stream, answer that question, or you can hop in the chat and let us know which team you think is the most disappointing wherever that you're watching from. But, Steve, I have a question for you. We'll talk about disappointing teams. We have Gene Cross chiming in here. Do you guys feel the Texas Rangers are still being undervalued? another one of those buzzwords. He thinks that the lines the books are hanging are just disrespectful for the Rangers side. Any thoughts on that from our man Gene?
Well, I mean, I think from a money line perspective, they're plus 4 units already on the season, I believe, at 6-3. So I guess you can make an argument they're a little undervalued. They were my play on team, as you guys know. Last season, I gave a futures out here preseason and talked about them a lot. And I thought the no shift rule was going to benefit the Rangers more than any team in baseball because they had some powerful left-handed hitters and teams shifted on lefties more over the years, and that's what really took away some advantages. They also run well. I thought the new pitch count, clock, less pickoff moves, bigger bases, all that was going to help the Rangers, and obviously it did. They had a great season. Hard to imagine a team that had a run like that last year could be undervalued this year, but they weren't great the year right before that. So, yes, we could probably catch some momentum with them again. And keep in mind, I'll use that Orioles example again. They were one of the worst teams in baseball, not only from a record perspective, but also money line for a couple of years in a row. The last 2 or 3 years, they've been the biggest moneymaker in baseball. So these things do trend for more than just one season. I think the Rangers look strong again. 6-3 start. Not a good showing last night. I thought we'd get more offense in that game. They're making Blanco. He's obviously using something on the baseball because he's been a mediocre pitcher that looks great all of a sudden. Holding the Rangers last night, the entire team held them to just 1 run, 2 hits. But other than that, they had 41 hits and they had 21 runs of 3 games before that. And their bullpen has been fantastic so far this year at the 2.7 ERA. So, yes, I think Texas is one of the better teams. So in that regard, they might remain a little bit underrated still.
And it's apropos that we had the chat asking about that Rangers and Astros game because that's actually where we have our best bet coming from our man, Mark Zinno. Hey, and if you're watching us live here or on the rewatch, hop below in the comments and you can respond and let us know which is the most disappointing team to you thus far throughout the MLB season. Hop below in the comments. We would love to hear from you there. But let's talk a little best bet action here. Mark Zinno, you want to take a look at a team total in this one. So let us know what your best bet is. And then also tell folks what you have up at WagerTalk. I believe you got a 2-pack. That's right, a double play in basketball action tonight. So tell folks about that and tell us what we're betting on in the MLB tonight.
Sure. Well, first, again, most disappointing team by far is the Oakland Athletics. Them having 3 wins at this point in time to me is ridiculous. If you bet their team total under win for the year, you're not happy. They should have 0 wins by all accounts. That's disappointing to me.
Sacramento Athletics.
Exactly. Have 3 wins at this point, Steve.
Las Vegas.
You said it right. Let's look tonight at the Texas Rangers. So we're doing one of these quirky little wraparound 4-game series after playing on Sunday Night Baseball. But the Rangers are going up against Framber Valdez of Houston. Framber is not the color of your energy when it comes to facing the Texas Rangers. He was destroyed by the Rangers last season, made 5 starts against them, including the playoffs. Gave up at least 3 runs in 4 or 5, including giving up 5 in 3 of those 5 starts. Gave up 30 hits in 24 in the 3rd innings. So clearly the Texas Rangers know how to score off Framber Valdez. Andrew Heaney starts with Texas. Now, why are you worried about that when I'm talking about a team total over 4.5? Well, Andrew Heaney got some of the best run support in baseball last year from the Rangers. Call it what you want. Don't understand why some pitchers get more run support than others, but he got almost 7 runs per start last year when he was on the mound for the Texas Rangers. The Astros bullpen, guys, ERA is 6. That's 3rd worst in the American League to start the season. Their whip is 1.67. They're tied for the most home runs allowed by a bullpen this season with 6. Texas Rangers over 4.5 team total here tonight against the Houston Astros and Framber Valdez for my best bet.
Texas Rangers going over the 4.5. That's the best bet for Mark Zinno. Check him out, wt.buzz/MZ. And let us know if you have any team totals that you're eyeing at betting, overs or unders. Let us know in the comments right here on the video while you're down there. Hit that like button. Steve, let's swing it on over to the Mariners. And, we're go ahead, Mark. You have something?
No, I forgot to pub the page here. I apologize. I wanted to let everybody know. I still have technically a 3-pack. I have 2 plays on the national championship tonight, including a 5% best bet. Also have a baseball play up there. So there's another play for baseball if that's what you're into. But national championship tonight, guys, I've cashed 3 of my last 4 5% bets, 10 and 5 on 4% bets and higher. Last 15 college basketball plays here. We love the angle we found tonight. for the national championship game. So again, 5% best bet for me, wt.buzz/MZ. Thank you guys. Sorry about that, Steve. Appreciate you letting me
No,
get
you're
that
good. And if you want to see Mark Zinno in a steel cage match against Prez and Teddy on today's Wager Talk Today show,
Oh
head on
boy,
over.
I want to see that.
Oh, it's
in.
good.
I needed you today, Steve. I needed you.
I know.
You
never need me. You can handle both of them with one arm tied behind your back. I'm pretty confident of that. Although Prez has a judo background, judo chop.
Yeah.
He does have a judo
Yeah,
background, so he can maybe get you if your guards now.
To be fair, Steve, he may have a judo background, but he'll probably be high by the time the fight starts. So I'm giving Zinno the edge with that part alone. Maybe a little too
Start time
edible
is key.
action for our main press. It's a good point. Always check the start time before heading up to the counter. That's for sure, Steve. Hey, well, speaking about Prez, we're contractually obligated to talk Phillies when I'm on, according to the live chat. But we have to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays on any show here with all our Canadians up north. They're playing the Mariners here tonight. And Steve, you think that it might just be about pitching and fielding this evening? How are you breaking down this one for your best bet? And let folks know what you have up at Wager Talk.
Yeah, it's a good segue because I believe Mark used this game on Wager Talk today. So go back and check Mark's take on it. I think he had a first 5-inning angle. I'm going to use a full game angle here in just a moment for the Seattle-Toronto game. But yeah, it's a huge card tonight. There's no NBA, but there's still a lot of money-making opportunities. I do have a strong best bet in the NCAA title game, also 2 nighttime baseball games. So you can get them each separately or make a 3-for-1 special. They're each 25 or get all 3 for 29. That's like $2 Monday on that second and third play. And also I do have an in-depth breakdown and analysis of the title game, my Fade the Public series here. We finished it off for the college basketball season. I'll let you know the public side in total and also a deep dive into the analytics of this Purdue-UConn game. So once again, check that out after the show here. It's free on Wager Talk TV, and hit subscribe and hit the bell as well so you never miss those videos when they go live. Let's look at a free play in Major League Baseball tonight on Monday. Going to look under the total between the Blue Jays and Mariners. And this is the first home game for Toronto all season after 10 road games because it's the remodeled Rogers Center. Could be a distraction tonight. It's not a huge part of my handicapping equation, but I do think it maybe will be a little bit of distraction. The Blue Jays have not been a good offensive team overall this season. In fact, on the road so far this year, they've had 8 hits or less in 8 of their 10 games. Overall, they're averaging just 3.5 runs per game this season. Mariners even worse, barely averaging over 3 runs a game. They've had single-digit hits in 9 of their 10 games so far this season, and they're traveling with no rest after being in Milwaukee for the weekend. My pitcher performance ratings also show both starters should have a good outing. Barrios also has been very strong against this Mariners lineup, holding them to a 9 for 53, 170 career batting average, and I also project Luis Castillo to have a good outing for the Mariners. So both starting pitchers looking good form tonight. Both offenses have been struggling. Might look like a low total for Toronto, but it's the remodeled Rogers Center, and we'll go under the total here. Toronto, Seattle, under 8 runs, minus 105 goes at 7 Eastern. And don't forget, I've got 2 strong late-night MLB best bets, along with that national championship best bet in college hoops, a 3-for-1 power pack, Monday night. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, and also remind you can grab those plays the guys have loaded tonight right at WagerTalk.com, or you can grab 30 days of plays and get an extra 7 for just $6.45 a day. WT.buzz/deals will get you all of that info, or just go to your favorite cappers page like WT.buzz/MZ for Zinno, WT.buzz/SM for my man Steve Merril. We appreciate you, whether you're watching live or on the rewatch. Hop below in the comments. You heard these guys' best bets under 8 in Seattle and Toronto, and that's from my man Steve Merril. For Mark Zinno, he's going with over the Rangers team total, sitting at 4.5 against Houston. That's their best bets. We want to hear yours in the comments below. And also, while you're down there, let us know most disappointing team thus far. It's still early, so we'll pump the brakes, but we want to know who's been killing you on the bankroll early on here in the year. Big thanks to Steve. Big thanks to Mark. Big thanks to everyone watching here live. We appreciate you. Make sure you got that like button on the way out. And if you want more betting content, you don't have to go anywhere. These guys are dropping single game videos all the time. We got live shows rocking throughout the day. Game time picks with Zinno and Kelly Stewart coming up later. So you never know what you're going to find here on Wager Talk TV. The one thing you know you're getting is all the info you need to bet all the sports you love. It's only a click away right here at Wager Talk.